And today's topics I like to explain is the 7 things to keep in mind when buying a small apartment building. And the first one is have a plan. Is your plan to buy and hold, or is your plan is to flip? So depending on the market, it might be best to buy and hold, especially like you have a very long time horizon, and you cannot really cash flow right away, but you think the market will appreciate in the long haul. It might be best to have a buy and hold strategy. And sometimes you want to get some cash flow for your business. Like you are more like a active investor who need to get the cash from your business operations. Then plan should be the flip. So you will look for more value add apartment building that need to be either change the layout to fit more bedrooms, or make the apartment building, for example, to make a condo conversions. Condo conversion is basically subdivision of the apartment building. So it's legally separate each unit for the condominium, and then you can sell as a condominium for each unit. And then after the conversion, you sell each unit. So those, depending on the plans, you decide which building you need to buy. If it's condo conversion, you have to look at how much you can get by selling each condominium. So it's totally different when you're looking from the cash flow. And then if you are looking for appreciations, you really have to look the market where you think there will be the appreciations. For example, if you see the development coming to the area, but right now, for some reason, the area is depressed, those are the area that you should be buying if you're looking for appreciations. So the plans always comes fast. So you shouldn't be looking the building first. You have to have a plan, and then you look for the building. So it's fit with your plans. And then without those plans, you're looking everywhere, and then you end up buying the building that it doesn't fit with your lifestyle or business strategies. And then the second point is you have to be very patient. So sometimes people, talk about, oh, I get this building, I'm buying this building. They post in the, Facebook or Instagrams, and then you feel like you have to buy something, but you really don't. So please don't be rushed to buy anything. Please take your time to make the deals that which make sense for you. Because rushing to buy something really sometimes doesn't make sense. Like you will wait for the right building that really works for you. And then you also want to kind of build a team so that once you get the building, you have a property managers, you have a contractor in the area, and then when you have those team of the people, then you will be successful managing the properties if you have to self-manage. And then most of the times, small apartment building, you end up self-manage. Either you don't have a big cushion or big profit. So being a good property manager is a kind of key for small apartment building, unless you got the really good deals, and then you can afford the property management. If you have any questions, you can type in the chat box so that I can answer any questions. And I don't see any questions, so I'm gonna keep going. And the third thing is prepare for the cash flow crunch. So when you buy the apartment building, unless you plan for the reserve, it's sometimes you have unexpected expenses. For example, my case, the boiler system that they've been using for years suddenly stopped working. So I ended up buying a whole HVAC unit for whole building. That was really unexpected. So those are the money that you may need to kind of, pay out of pocket. So you have to be prepared for those unexpected expenses. So don't spend all the money for down payment and then you don't have any money in the bank. That's not really good start. So be prepared for those unexpected expenses. And, you may have a roof leak. Those could happen. So be prepared. And then once you get money from the operations, create the reserve so that in the future you can prepare for those updating roof, updating plumbing. You have to kind of plan for updating those buildings, especially for old building. Most of the old building need to be updated sometime in the future. So you need to kind of make a plan for those capital expenditure, roof, HVAC, hot water heater, windows. Most of them, I think you will kind of find out when you have a building inspections when you purchase. So plan those expenditure, and then you won't be surprised or not be able to pay those expenses when it's happened. And do you have any questions? You can type in a chat box, and then I can answer as these in a chat box. Okay. Next, we need to light financing. So make sure you get the light financing for your project. So for example, if you're doing the heavy value add, you may want to get the interest only construction loan, because in the beginning of the project, most likely you don't have a low or no income from the operations. That means you are paying out of pocket, or you have to have interest reserve for the project. So depending on how long the project, it could be a couple months to maybe a couple years. So when you do the financing analysis, you have to kind of create a spreadsheet, making sure those construction period, you are able to pay the interest, and then having interest-only construction loan make much easier to finance the project. And then you will refinance with the permanent loan after the interest-only construction loan. So those are the typical scenario when you are doing the value add financing and then kind of fit to your project. If you have a very stable building which has the rental income to start with, then you probably want to get the regular permanent loan right away. And then potentially, depending on the when you plan to sell, if you are trying to get the best interest loan, you will have a low interest rate with 5 years. But if you're trying to get like 30 years loan, then you probably have to pay a little bit more than the 5-year loan. So those are the considerations when you are trying to get the financing. And then also important thing is you also have to look for the penalty fee. Most of the commercial loan comes with the penalty fee. And usually they like a 3 type of the penalty fee, like 3 to 1, like first couple of years, 3%, and next several years, 2%, and next like last couple of years, then it's gonna be 1%. So those are straightforward, percentage of your loans will be penalty fee. The other one is the defeasance. So there is a kind of financial calculations that it comes with. They will charge you based on the interest fluctuations. So make sure if you are selling in several years, you think about the penalty fee, and then when you're trying to sell, how much the penalty fee will be, and then make sure you think it's acceptable penalty fee for your financing. Otherwise, make sure you negotiate with the bank so that you don't regret afterward. Those are the kind of like a financing you want to make sure. And then also, if you have a multiple building to buy, make sure the terms doesn't end at the same time. You have a building A, B, C. If you are having the same length of the loan, like, then you have to find the refinancing or selling the building at the same timing. So make sure the one loans, if it's ending 5 years, make sure the other loans is ending like 7 or 10 years, so that you don't have to scramble all the refinancing and then selling the building at the same years. So I think the financing is also key, especially when you're starting having a bigger portfolio. You might want to have the dedicated person to deal with the financing, because it's take really time to find the financing bank for the renewal, and whenever the interest is fluctuating and then getting lower, then you have to really make sure you are refinancing with the lowest possible interest rate when the timing is right. And then if you have any questions, please type in the chat box so that I can answer the question for you. And the fifth items it's a locations. I know it's cliche, but whenever you are looking for locations, look for paths of growth where the thing is developing. For example, in DC, the path of growth is northwest to northeast. So you can see the value of the apartment buildings going up significantly is northeast part of the towns. And then recently, it kind of went over to southeast of part of the DC. For example, the building I purchased 3 years ago, original owner, he bought this 3 years before. Within the 3 years, the building he purchased about 500,000. And then by the time he sold the building to me, it went up like 340,000, matter of 3 years to 840,000. And then right now the building of my size in Southeast DC is selling anywhere between 1.2 to 1.3 millions. So matter of 3 years, it went up another 360,000 or more. So if you look for the path of growth, it may not be clear to you, then you talk to the professional like brokers or mortgage brokers, anyone in the industry in the area who knows the area. Then you can tell, they can tell the where is the path of growth. And then even you make a mistake, if the appreciation come, you are most likely saved by buying the right locations. If you have any questions, please type in the chat box so that I can answer. And so the location is really key, especially for real estate. Check the upcoming locations by the talking to the commercial brokers who typically knows where the development's coming. If there's many commercial development in the area, most likely the value of the location will eventually go up because people are flocking amenity like nice gym, nicer restaurant, grocery shop. So for example, there is Whole Food, they call like Whole Foods effect. So supposedly when the Whole Foods open up, the location's appreciation is higher than average. But I don't know if it's, cause effect or so might be different take on someone who you talk to. But if there's a lot of development like Whole Food or REI, then I think those are the good locations. And then that's number 6. So legal compliance. This is very important, and please make sure you are legal compliance. Most of the locations, there is a specific law and regulation, especially during the pandemic. Most of the eviction is stopped. So even filing or sending the letter to notice to quit, for example, you can't do in DC. In fact, if you send the notice to quit right now in DC, you will get fined. I know the fact that property management company and the landlord who ignore those regulations, they're getting fined. So please make sure you're up to date and educate yourself. And then also there's more legal compliance, like the business license. For example, in DC, if you don't have a business license, you are most likely not be able to evict the tenant. So it's really important to know the legal compliance in your state, and then you can join some organization, like a landlord organization. They sometimes have an educational seminar. Maybe right now it's online, and then also local real estate associations. Even you're not realtor, you probably can get some kind of webinars or event if you pay the fee, and then get to know local legal compliance. If you have any questions on the topics, please type in a chat box so that I can answer any questions. And then number 7, networking and then building relationship. So real estate is a relationship business. You need to keep networking and then build relationship before you need them. So especially like you may heard the word like wholesaler, who usually put the building under the contract and then assign the sales contract to someone else. So wholesalers, real estate agent, they are key if we are not directly marketing to the seller. So unless you're creating your own lead, you will end up talking to wholesalers or agent who can bring a good deal. And then if once you get the put anything under the contract, then next thing is you need a building inspector. So building inspector is you can check the whole systems, envelope of the building, roof. So you make sure you have a good building inspector so that they can check everything key to the building. If inspector came like a really bad report, I think you might consider like negotiating them or decide not to buy the building unless you're getting really good deals. And then after you pass through the due diligence, then you probably already talking to the mortgage broker unless you're paying cash. So I generally use mortgage broker because they can shop around to the bank so that you don't have to talk, hundreds of bank. Typically, the mortgage broker, they have a relationship with the local bank so that depending on the type of the building or locations, there's always the bank that finance as long as it makes sense for them. So the mortgage broker is a key. If you have a direct relationship with banker, that's also key. And then you also want to have a good, solid relationship with title companies. Title companies, they will make sure that your title is clean and then get the good insurance. And then if any tricky situations, you can usually consult with the attorney at the title company. And if you have a different real estate attorney, then you can talk to them about the, sometimes like in my case, the roof collapsed in the middle of transaction. So it's really key, like when you sign a sales contract, seller is supposed to bring the building at the condition of the inspections or sign the contract. And then what if those happens, then who's responsible to repair the roof? So your sales contract need to be very precise and then make sure you are protected. So sometimes it's really good to have those legal contact to make sure you can close the transactions. And then, of course, you really need to have a good property manager if you can afford it, so that you don't overspend on the building, and then you have a very reasonable contractor to repair, because most of the times repairs, fees, it's kind of really important component of the expenses, especially for small building. So how to make a repair, but that was really good quality is a key. So having those networking and building relationship before you need them is very important for the small building. I think those are the key for small apartment building. And if you have any questions for those points, please type in the chat box so that I can answer the questions. And then those are the 7 things keeping in mind when you are buying small apartment building. At this time, I'm open to any question you may have, so that answering like any other question you may have. Mark, do you have any questions? Okay. So we usually have this small apartment building in usually second Tuesday at 7 p.m. And then I usually teach the framework of how to buy and how to find and make profit based on the plan. And then today's we talk about 7 things to keep in mind when buying the small apartment building. But some other class I will talk about the step to buy apartment building. If you have any questions, you can type in the chat box. Okay, so I think many people ask those questions like how to find a small apartment building. Typically, small apartment building, you can get the available listing from MRIS. Those are the agent available database. If you talk to most of the agent, residential agent, they have access to those systems. And then typically you will find anywhere between like a 2 unit, 4 unit, maybe sometimes 10, 15 unit, a small apartment building, they are listed in the MRS system. So same as buying the your homes or single family homes, you can find those apartment building in MRIS. And then typically, if you ask your agent, they should be able to set up automatic email. So anytime that new deals comes up, it's automatically comes in your inbox. So that if you set up the plan, and then if you find a good building for you, you should be able to just call up the agent that you work with and then see the properties. So most of the times it's probably occupied by tenant. So you might be able to just see 1 or 2 unit if it's vacant. And then sometimes the agent lets you in with the tenant in, but the most likely right now, due to pandemic, you may have a very difficult accessing inside when you are just looking the properties. But the ones you think the building is correct, you make an offer. Usually if up to 4 unit, you will be able to use regular residential loan. And then if that's the case, then typical time frame from closing should be very similar to regular home buying time frame, which is like a 35 days, 45 days. It might be a little longer right now, but those are the time frame. But if it's more than 4 unit or even 4 unit, if you decide to use the commercial loan, then it's gonna be longer, like 45 to 90 days. And it's more time-consuming process. The appraisal fee is much higher. Usually, home appraisal fee is like about 300 to 450, something like that. But the commercial appraisal is, 1,500, 3,000, somewhere in between. And then typically take much longer. Most of the times it comes in the very last minute. And then, depending on appraisal, then you may have to make more down payment. So be prepared for those unexpected time delay for the commercial loan. But once you get the commercial loan, then I think you should be able to get the small apartment building fairly easy. When you try to buy 100 plus unit, most likely if you are not like an individual wealthy, you end up typically called syndications. So you make all the paperwork so that you find the private investor to invest in your project, and then the links and then the complexity of the project is get much higher. So if you buy the small apartment building, that's one of the benefits. It's easier to do the whole process by yourself without having many investors or doing the syndications. And then the besides finding the deals, the other questions I typically hear is about how to manage the apartment building. So, for example, I self-manage some of the building. I think I highly recommend to make a budget in the beginning of the building. So you talk to other owner who has similar building. So 4 unit is totally different from 10 or 12 unit. So if you plan to buy the specific building, like a unit type, you might want to talk to those owner who already own the unit size, and then determine how much is the pest control for those building, how much is the trash collections. For example, DC, if you own 4 unit apartment building, you have to get the trash removal service. But if you own only 2 unit, then city will take care of the trash removal. So it's kind of big difference by hiring trash removal contractor to where you don't have to consider those expenses. So depending on those state locations, expenses are different. And then also like yard maintenance, some places like in DC, we have to count for the snow removal. Sometimes, depending on the year, we have a lot of snow, and then you have to hire someone to do the sorting and the snow removal. So those costs add up. So you kind of have to consider those expenses based on the locality. And then utilities are very key. So all the building, sometimes they are all in the same account. For example, most of the building in DC, the water is all same. So you probably landlord end up paying the water bill. And if you have a separate, meters, then you should be able to charge back to the tenant. And then we had the electric meter separate, and then you should be able to charge back or let them open their own account for the electric. So utilities are very key. And then one of the things that you can reduce the expenses is if the gas is combined for the building, you might consider separating those out depending on the cost. Then you can eliminate the future gas bill for that building and stuff like that. It's make a huge difference. So considering separating meter for electric and gas, and then potentially water if it makes sense. In DC, getting the separate water is really expensive, so which doesn't make sense for us. But depending on the locality, if it makes sense or it's new build, having a separate meter makes sense. And other things to consider is a security. If your building is a little bit like kind of iffy area, you might want to consider putting the security camera or security light so that the it's kind of help to decrease the crime in the area. And having a security camera in a building is sometimes time saver. Like you can check if the trash removal companies pick up the trash, you can check without going there. And then you can check how tall the grass is. Then you can call up your yard guy to cut the grass. And then if you have a maintenance person to clean the building regularly, then you don't have to rely on the person saying, oh, I clean or something. Then you can check with the security camera if they really clean the building. So those kind of make sense if the installing the security camera is not too expensive. It kind of makes sense for some building, which I install the security camera, or some buildings, which is helpful to check on the building, especially you're living in a little bit far away from the building. So those are the sometimes people ask me about, security of the building, and then which is important sometimes. If you have any questions, you can put in a chat box so that I can answer any the questions out of in this material. I think I cover most of the typical question, but if you have any questions, then you can type in the chat box, and then I can answer. Or if you have the future topics that want to cover in the next class, then I can also incorporate in the next class. And then the my contact information is here listed. So my email address is here, yukiko@pumainvestment.com, and the telephone number is here, and then also LinkedIn profile. So you can reach me in those contact informations if you have any specific question that I didn't cover here. I think it's about 14 minutes to 8, but if you have any other questions, I think I will be finishing up here. Thank you for attending. I appreciate your coming here, and then see you next class on second Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much.